I can't grow because I have a fast metabolism. For the longest time, I genuinely believe, I was one of those guys that believed that the reason why I wasn't growing, or the reason why I was skinny throughout most of my childhood and teenage years, was simply because I had a fast metabolism. And truth be told, 2.5 years later of working out and actually eating, being in a caloric surplus, I can tell you guys that that's one of the biggest lies that a lot of people tell themselves. Why? And it's because you don't have the knowledge. Now, I will admit, having a fast metabolism generally can keep you below the radar with regards to actually increasing weight. But the reason why you're actually not increasing weight, firstly, is simply because you're not in a caloric surplus. And being a caloric surplus means you basically eat more than you burn. And I know for some of you, right, I've been there where like you're probably skinny right now and you think you eat a lot. But what's happening is you're basically eating around your maintenance. Meaning that if you actually want to gain the weight or increase your muscle mass or size, then you have to actually start eating more than you currently are. Now, the reason why this is going to be difficult for most of you is because you don't actually work out or you don't have an extra activity that you're willing to add into your life. Because I promise you, the moment you actually start working out, you're going to naturally drive the will and zeal to eat more food. Why? Because now you're officially burning more than you eat. You get it? So like I said, for as long as you haven't added another intense, maybe workout routine or an intense sport into your lifestyle, the problem is it's going to be very difficult for you to increase the amount of food that you take or eat already. Why? Because you already feel comfortable and the amount of food you eat is enough for whatever you currently do, like the level of activity that you have. So if I dumb this down for you and I summarize this and break it down into 2 simple steps, and if you're someone who actually wants to stop being skinny, basically what I'm telling you to do is start lifting weights. And the second thing is start eating more. And by eating more, I mean being in a caloric surplus. Now, if I make it a bit more technical so that it's not just randomized, I would say there are generally 4 steps you need to take to actually build muscle as a skinny guy or girl. Firstly, eating a caloric surplus. So making sure that your calories are above maintenance. I'll say maybe 300 to 500 calories in the positive. Making sure that you hit your protein goal every single day. So if you want to find out how much protein you should eat, basically take your body weight in kilograms and then multiply it by 2. So if you're 80 kgs, you should be having at least 160 grams of protein every single day. Now, the second thing you should make sure after getting your nutrients right, so being in a caloric surplus, is resting. You should be resting for at least 7 to 8 hours every single day, because rest and recovery is extremely important for muscle growth. Because as much as you might tear the muscle down in the gym, the muscle is built outside of the gym when you're resting, when you're eating, when you're recovering. That's when your muscles grow, especially when you're sleeping. So you need to rest. Now, the third thing you need to make sure is that you are progressively overloading your weights every single week, every single workout. So what does progressive overload actually look like? So basically, for example, let's say you're doing the incline bench press and today's your first day in the gym and you're starting out with, let's say, 30 kgs. What you need to do is, let's play around the 6 to 8 rep range. So every time you get to 8, you bump up the weight. So you start with your 30 kgs of 6 reps this week. Next week, you do 30 kgs of 7 reps. In the other week, you do 30 kgs of your 8 reps. And let's say if you're not ready to get to 35, I would advise you to add a 9th rep in there, or even a 10th, to be honest, because I get it, for some people, our strength kicks in at different times. So if you have to take it to 10, it's fine. Then after that, 8, 9, or 10th rep, which is probably like within 4 to 5 weeks, then you bump it up to 35 kgs. You start over again, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8. It's really up to you depending on how you're feeling. Because the most important thing, and I'll speak about it, which is the fourth thing you need to also take into account, is your form when you're in the gym. Because ego lifting is pointless. Why? Because you're risking injury. And the reason why I go to the gym is to have longevity in the gym and also have that good standard of health for as long as you possibly can in your lifetime. That's the whole point. Because you're going to start working out this year and you bench 100 kgs only for you to pop your shoulder and never be able to lift again. Then there's really no point. You haven't done anything. So you basically lifted for 1 year of your life. You see? So ego lifting is something you want to really stray away from. I know a lot of people do it. Even for me, I can't lie. There are times I can check in my own past where I can definitely admit to ego lifting. But it's a very slippery slope. So I wouldn't advise you to ego lift. Rather, if you're a beginner, find a weight that's not necessarily too heavy to lift, but at the same time, it's also not too easy to lift. So you need to be somewhere in the middle, right? And when you find that middle ground, the next thing you put into account is your form. So let's say you can maybe do the incline bench press with 20 kgs, but your form isn't perfect. Maybe try go a bit lower to 18. That will probably be like the perfect start for you, if you get what I'm trying to say. So form is definitely something that's going to help you build that muscle, because you really need to make sure that there's as much mechanical tension in your muscles as possible when you're working out, when you're putting down the weights on the eccentric and the decentric movements. So you really need to make sure that your form is as good as possible. This is a piece of advice for any beginner. I would advise you to actually stick with machines, because the thing is, machines are aided and they're already fixed in positions. So it's quite easy for you to have the best form, especially as a beginner, because if you're a beginner, your form is going to be terrible for the most part. Even for me, when I look back at some of the gym videos I used to make, pretty much in my first 3 to 6 months in the gym, my form was horrendous. Not to say that my form is perfect now, but I definitely would have made more progress much faster had I started using machines instead of the free weights. But because of my ego, I just wanted to go straight for the free weights. But if you're a complete beginner, I would advise you to maybe spend the first 3 months using machines and then maybe start alternating certain workouts. Maybe you start, for example, you could do the bench press on a machine for like 3 months and then you move to the free weights on the bench press, something like that. So yeah, these are basically the main 4 points, or the framework around actually going from being skinny to actually building muscle. So yes, you might have a fast metabolism, but truth be told, that is not the reason why you're still skinny today. The reason why you're still skinny today is because you're actually not making any effort into actually growing and building muscle. Because with where I am today, I promise you, I never genuinely thought that I could actually grow, because I had that mindset or that mentality. Why? Because I didn't know any better, but now I do. So if you're someone that's skinny and you're stuck and you're ready to build lean muscle and endurance over the next 4 months, step by step, book a call with me in my calendar below and let's get started.